journey shaped you? Kalpesh, would you like to go first?
Okay. What drew me to the work? I think I would like to kind of uh, draw attention to my own misery at some point in this journey. As I was growing and learning how to live a life, I guess. And there was a question, and not a question, but many questions, I would say, that would really uh, bother me at first. It would be really hounding me to understand what's really going on within me and how do I, even comprehend what it is called. And I think at some point when there was some uh, sense of there are other people like me who are going through similar process, especially men who are struggling with same kind of issues or figuring out uh, or trying to figure them out themselves, within themselves, what is the next step that they need to take. And it kind of like led me to see if it's possible to come together and, you know, at least have someone to witness the struggle or to the process, even if it is not really going into what would be the end goal of it, but to just have these pure, intimate spaces to witness each other's process of growing into something and what it could look like. I think, in short, that is what I think drew me to starting to host spaces during lockdown because that was like a very potent time. Everyone was really put to just uh, look at themselves in that it was not just for only men but every individual was really into I feel what put into an introspective mode. And then I guess that led me to bring this in, at least at that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. What about you, Sahil? What drew you to creating intentional spaces for men, and how has this journey shaped you?
Um, yeah, I think it's quite similar, I think, to what Kalpesh also said, that it all kind of begins um, from from one's own need. And I think that I had a need um, to really feel the support and the love um, that was largely missing in my life. Um, and and when I trace it back to my relationship with my father, and to the ways in which I really longed for that love. I also began to see um, I also began to see how many men like me could also be experiencing something similar. This longing for just yeah, this longing to be held, and to feel the support of a community. Um, and through my journey, I also encountered and continue to encounter the challenges in receiving love. As a man, or the ways in which it's very uncomfortable to be seen, in a space of vulnerability. And I have found immense power in those moments of vulnerability, and I felt most connected to my power in those spaces of vulnerability. And I think that that's what also um, really motivates me and inspires me to not just host um, men's circles, but also to be a part of them, and to just listen in to the stories of my brothers, and experience um, what they're going through and what they've gone through, because that in itself has the power. Just listening in to another man's story in itself has the power to deeply shift something in you. And so that's why, yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear more about what are the different kind of things that come up in these spaces, in these circles. What kind of emotional burdens do men arrive with, and how does it show up in their body, language, behavior, if you can recall something like that. But what kind of things come up in these circles, if it's okay to share? So I'm also think I as I'm saying this, I trust that I'm sure a lot of these spaces are confidential, but if you can share some themes that you have seen emerging.
Mm.
Would you like to go, Sahil, first?
Sure. Yeah. Um, yeah, I remember this one process that in one of the circles um, that I had initiated, which was remembering a scar that I received as a child, and and to show where that scar is in the body. Um, and it's not, it's not necessary. It wasn't a visible scar, but it wasn't a visible wound. Um, but almost every one of us, every man in the circle, so distinctly remembered experiences and incidents in their childhood, that um, that had taken away power from them. And that was a reminder that they are not enough as they are. And this belief that I am not enough as I am, would manifested as these kind of like visible scars in the body. Um, and almost every one of us had a story to tell around that scar, around that wound. Um, and I found that to be deeply painful, and um, um, just an extremely powerful process um, to just know that there are so many men who do not feel enough, no matter how much they do, or no matter what they do. That this feeling of being small is something that is so deeply embedded um, in us, and the roles that we play. The roles that I wouldn't even say that the roles that we play, but the roles that have been defined for us.
Mm.
Um, uh, Outside of which, mm, it's difficult to remember, or it's difficult to know who I am. And I think this has come up time and again, in the circles that I've been a part of. That if I don't play these roles, then who am I? Um, and what is my worth? Um, so that's something that came almost immediately.
Mm.
Mm.
Hmm. Um, Kalpesh, would you like to add something to this question?
Yeah, I kind of like, the way Sahil put it. Was just thinking about, and it took me back to all the times where I kind of witnessed something similar of not being enough, or, on the other side, just also kind of uh, wearing out oneself, doing more and more, just coming from the space of what is actually you can define as enough, and just kind of reaching to a point of burnout in that space. So a lot of processes, witnessing burnout, which was something that I kind of have come across quite often. uh, Then one of the things that which I kind of connected deeply personally also was not finding uh, the support that was needed in the time of transitions, like some really difficult transitions in life, and how they felt uh, there wasn't anyone to hold their hand, or uh, you know even just put a hand on their shoulder, not really like maybe show the way, but just stand with them in terms of not having an elder energy around to guide when needed. These kind of things I feel come as like I would say the underlying themes, uh, in the sense of just feelings. There would be so much of fear and anxiety that these things bring, and you know, it would always then become more about uh, how do I try to manage this part, manage this part of me which is anxious, manage this part of me which is fearful, and it would mostly be from that point of view. Like again, my personal what I would say, the understanding of this is that how we are wired to, like, just immediately take care of what is on the surface, like anxiety is on the surface, fear is on the surface, let's take care of it, but not able to see what is underlying. Where is it coming from? Where are the threads of those, that's, which, where are they tied up to? Which part of your childhood has it been really wound around, and how you untangle those threads to set yourself free. uh, so, yeah, I hope I answered your question, but that's something that I've seen regularly coming up in the themes with, yeah,
Yeah.
in the circles, in one-to-one processes also.
Yeah. And I just want to kind of add to what you said, Kalpesh, that yes, there's this one aspect where, like, say for example, emotions like anger or anxiety or fear is like dealt with at the surface, and there's no kind of engagement with it, um,
Yeah.
and often that the engagement with it is also a rationalization of it.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
is often an intellectualization of it, um,
Yes.
and that mm, that is what is missing from this engagement is like presence, deep presence. How
Mm.
can I just be with this
Mm.
emotion that is now coming up for me?
Mm.
Because I'm immediately rushing um, to suppress it through the power of my rationalization.
Yeah.
And that's it's a suppression. It's not an engagement.
Mm.
So that's also something that I found, um, that comes up a lot, in my interactions with other men and in circles as well.
Yeah, I'm hearing that yeah, this big theme of inadequacy, not enough as they are, to a point of perhaps burnout and feeling not supported. And there's a lot of different fears and anxieties that stem from different things. Often all of these things are intellectualized or rationalized, and I love that I really appreciate how um, you highlighted that it's a suppression when we try to just intellectualize it. That actually brings me to this one question that's been on my mind, especially with people who work with individuals one on one as well as with groups, um, holding listening spaces. Often there is this desire to come in and say that, okay, maybe this is what you're feeling, or even like there is this need to fix the situation. There's like this urge to fix the situation that comes up, right? um But it is, like you're saying, it's not about fixing it, but rather it's about sitting with it, sitting with what's true. How do you navigate this tension between holding space and perhaps initiating transformation, or like nudging towards transmutation of that difficult feeling? Does it make sense? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to start, Sahil?
Sure. Yeah. Um, yeah. I think what most of us, at the risk of generalizing this, most of us, what we've missed is the container of an empathetic presence.
Mhm.
And from right from the time of our childhood. Um, and so at least my role as a guide or as a facilitator is to provide that container of empathetic presence. Which is that, um, is there space for me to express what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, without the lens of judgment or pushing someone to access something deeper. So without any agenda or without any attachment to outcome. Which is what I find so beautiful about Biradri circles, and what Kalpesh and Shivena created together. Um, which is often really not acknowledged enough, that just listening in itself, um, empathetic listening can be deeply transforming. And 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 so if there is anything else required after that, or beyond that, then I think it is the skill of the facilitator, or the the capacity of the facilitator to provide that intervention, which may be at the level of the belief or the narrative or the story, that I'm carrying, which is also helpful to identify, and to address. So, so yes, I would maybe in some ways use the word tension, um, and also, um, kind of maybe say that, it's a dance, between the two, between listening and um, and acting, or initiating something, as a facilitator. But as someone who's been a part of men's circles, I have felt most held and most transformed when I've just felt the presence, of like other men holding me while I've had the space and the freedom to express my story or to express my pain in the way that I want to.
Um, Thank you. How do you navigate this tension, or how do you do this dance, Kalpesh?
Uh, yeah, as Sahil was mentioning about Biradri, I kind of just went back into the memory of feeling this tension in the body. And most of the times, especially when we just began hosting them, and one of the things that Shivena and I would really kind of like, have these post circle uh, conversations, and one of the points that would come up is that we don't see men talking. They come, they are sitting there, but we don't really see them speaking. And how do we get them to speak? What can we do? And I think initially, uh, as the intention was about making a listening circle But if no one is talking, then what are we listening into? Those kind of questions are really there up again at the surface. And I could also get in touch with my anxiety of how am I going to find like-mindedness or some resonance if I don't know what the person is going through. Uh, so as we went holding space, as we went on s- Sunday after Sunday, every year with just like holding space, some things that like on its own, I would say just happened was like to also be able to listen into those silences and the pauses that were so potent. They were so like potent with so much of energy of just as Sahil was mentioning about being witnessed, you know not really from a point of view of bringing in a transformation or even nudging someone to that, but to be able to be witnessed in that state that you are present in. And you know and I kind of started appreciating in my own personal life these silences and pauses, and how much transformative work that can happen when you do it in a group setting. So I think for me, uh, it became quite evident that as much as uh, there was an intention to kind of see where a resonant space gets created for transformation to happen, uh, there also another energy started building up simultaneously within, uh, which was about being able to hold these silences and pauses and places when there was nothing being said, but yet a lot was felt
Mm,
within that space, you
mm,
know, and that really kind of automatically I felt was this is the transformative container that we were looking for, and not really just exchanging words. Uh, so for me, I think just being able to embody and be able to sit with my own feelings that came up in these spaces. As I was holding space for other, I could also see that in their silences and in their own way, they were also holding space for me, and
mm,
being allowing myself and being vulnerable enough to not just be present there as a facilitator or someone who's holding the threads of the conversation, rather allowing it to for myself also to just become a part of the holding, that everyone was in their own way holding those threads and keeping the circle, intact, the container uh, to be like right there. And just that vulnerability and trying to sit with my own feelings allowed and that transformation I feel to happen on its own.
mm,
Yeah, just that. Yeah, I can't. As I was listening to Sahil, I was like, I'm recollecting all the memories of all the circles when there was not much spoken, but by the end of it, everyone was like, something shifted. We don't
mm,
really know what, but something has shifted, and maybe it would unfold in coming time what it is. But yeah, I think that's what I'm sitting with right now.
Yeah, I'm hearing witnessing, listening with loving embodied presence and holding like holding the container. Um, Sahil, you mentioned initiating things, initiating some kind of, it could be a some kind of tool, some kind of practice. What kind of tools or practices or processes that you have used when when you are sort of navigating that tension or dancing between um, these two things of holding the space and okay, now it's time to try and push this person to do more or go deeper.
mm. Um, so yeah, I use like a combination of a group therapeutic um, approach. It's called psychodrama. And within the context of psychodrama, it's an extremely vast um, discipline, and it has many examples of group interventions. That one can do. So my primary kind of approach is psychodramatic techniques. Often I use very simple. Um, so, for example, there is this technique called as the empty chair technique, which is also used in Gestalt therapy quite a lot. And the empty chair is just putting a chair in the middle of the room um, and asking the participants or asking people in the circle to go and to speak as someone from that chair. And there could be like a prompt, for example, like someone that you feel that you had a conversation within the last 1 week that brought up something in you that was uncomfortable. Yeah, there are several examples of prompts, that you can have, and often just that one technique is enough to bring up things, um, and to create a space where you can go a little bit deeper. Um, and so that would be an example of an intervention. That would be an example of me saying that, hey, we are going to try this out, this process out, and then kind of see where it goes. And just hope that it is contained at the end of it. Um, in addition to this, I do somatic, just somatic embodied, work, which involves just tracking sensations, feelings, identifying thoughts that are related to the feelings or the sensations. I use a little bit of NVC, which is nonviolent communication, in being able to express what I'm feeling, like what the emotion or the feeling or the sensation is. And I use a ceremony and ritual as a way to, because I found that um, in my own journey, sitting with elders, with indigenous elders, was the initiation that I needed and need from boyhood to manhood. And the boy in me transformed into the man through these initiations and through these ceremonies. Um, and so I also try to include that as much as possible in the circles that I facilitate. Yeah.
What do these ceremonies or rituals look like? Yeah, can you share a little bit more for someone who doesn't understand um, ceremonies in therapeutic spaces, if you call it therapeutic spaces?
Yeah. Um, um, so, like an example of a ceremony could be in one of the circles that I had done. I think Nandadeep was also there as a part of the circle. He's also here. But in one of the circles that I facilitated, um, we used voice and drums and rattles to express the um, the burdens that had not been felt, the burdens that had not been expressed, and then through a visualization, um, after that process, we connected with our voice again to the Divine Mother, to the cosmos. Um, and we just sat in a circle and we used our voice to call out to the Divine Mother to hold us and to contain us. Um, And yeah, there were just some elements of working with the elements and using some of these elements to enter into a more conscious and intentional space to connect, with these energies. So that's um yeah, that would be an example. I don't know if I was clear enough in what I was saying, but maybe I was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, thank you for explaining what a ceremony could look like and an example of that. What about you, Kalpesh? So is there a role for ritual, the sacred or the unseen in your work with men?
Yes, it's actually quite a big part, I would have to say, uh, as I would really come in touch with my own personal practices. It would it would point towards actually creating a routine around these rituals, uh, which really helped me to hold uh, the container that would like to offer others. Yeah. So, how do they look like? It's quite interesting that my teacher, Alvin, he would always tell me about how, you don't have to really uh, uh, kind of create uh, into a special time or special place always to hold a ritual, but how you could, uh, involve them into the routine where that could also look like something that you're doing, but it's almost like, looks like you're just going with your day, but it looks, for you, it is something that you're doing as a ritual. How you embody it in that, like uh, it could be just a breathwork practice that you do in the morning, or your routine of like an exercise, or even just a walk in the woods or in the nature, which is an intentional walk in that sense, could also turn into like a ritual that really holds you and creates enough grounding for you to be able to then hold space for the others also. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah,
And it,
yeah.
uh,
Go ahead. No, finish your thought, yeah.
no, I mean, that's it. I mean, I was just saying that it also connects to the first question that you were talking about, that, what is that you use in your process, or what you bring in. And most of it, I think Sahil covered it. Some things that I have kind of now started involving myself in the offering is to connecting more with the nature, because there is something about the intuitive force of it that really helps you to align a person also to their own intuitive being. And to be able to do that, I think there is nothing more powerful than, as Sahil said, Mother Nature, in a way, allowing allowing her to hold us, allowing her to ground us, and then from there support and guide us in kind of uh, knowing where to put the next step. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I also kind of heard maybe a little bit in between the lines also directly that ritual, like working with the sacred, doesn't have to be something very elaborate, or it doesn't have to be it's okay if you're not showered, like for example. But growing up religiously, we were taught like you can't enter the puja room or whatever without showering, for example.
Mm.
Is there any other ways the conditioning of what working with the sacred or the unseen has been broken for you personally through the work that you do? Either of you, whoever likes to go first.
Okay. Sahil, would you want to go
Yeah.
first? Yeah.
So just to understand what you said, Lakshmi, that the the conditioning that we've inherited about this is the way that you approach something sacred, the religious conditioning of sacred. um yeah, so I actually don't consider religion and sacred in the same, you know. And not to say that what is religious cannot be sacred, you know. But in my own experience, I found it, like you mentioned, to be limiting and restricting. And I guess I would just go back to what Kalpesh said, that you know, that if you do something consciously and intentionally, you know, and if you bring all of your being into it, um, you know, it is a ritual. And this is something that this is something that I've experienced from my teachers, you know, who really not initiated me into any elaborate ritual making, but given me the space to connect with my own intelligence, with my own rhythms, with the rhythms of our earth, and you know, of our cosmos, and to create something from that relationship, you know, from this relationship of non-separateness. That is, I'm not separate from from earth. um, and then when I come from that place, uh, then everything that I do can be a ritual or can be an offering. So this is what has changed for me, because I would think that a ritual needs to be in a certain way and it needs to have certain elements to it. I'm not denying that there are still certain aspects of a ritual that do have to be done in a certain way and that do have certain elements to it. Um, However, it's not necessary for us to feel a sense of wholeness and intactness only if we were to use ritual in that way. You know, that if we bring our presence to something that we do, to every day, like just eating food, and if I can just bring my presence to just this act of eating food, it can become deeply um, transformative.
Mm.
In my own experience this. Yeah.
Yeah, anything done with intention can be ritualistic. Um, am I audible? Yeah. Am I connected?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to hear like more thoughts about like how to work with the sacred, uh, rather than how you broke that conditioning. I think which you beautifully shared. Um, I would like to maybe now ask, how you mentioned working with the great mother archetype or divine mother archetype. Um, so, how can you share how you work with different archetypes, either the divine masculine or the divine feminine or mother or any other archetype? Is there like a, um, how do you bring that into your work? How is that involved in your work?
Um, yeah. So there are four main archetypes that I try to include as much as possible. Um, it's the warrior, the healer, the visionary, and the teacher. And the warrior, healer, visionary, and teacher have both light and shadow. You know, and so these four archetypes can be a great tool for us to understanding the light and the shadow of these four archetypes can be a beautiful um, exploration or a doorway into understanding myself and into understanding these yeah into the ways in which um, I, to some extent, have embodied these four archetypes or the energy of these four archetypes and have not, and yet need to embody. Um, the Divine Mother and the Divine Father, um, for me, in my experience, are two energies. I experience them as energies. I experience them as two forces. In in the land of India, we call it Shiva and Shakti. In a more kind of contemporary framework, we understand it as a divine masculine and divine feminine. In my practice of qigong, we understand it as yin and yang. So these are two cosmic forces, that have certain qualities to them. So, for example, the yin is more receptive, more inward. It's the energy of night, of darkness, whereas yang is more outward, expressive, explosive. Um, you know, and and it's the energy of the sun or flight. So, so these two energies or these two forces operate within me in certain ways. And there is an imbalance in either one. And so the goal is to balance out these two forces, because when I balance out these two forces and these two energies, then I'm in a state of stillness. I'm in a state of presence, um, and I think that is a beautiful quality, um, that um, that we all can embody. But it's particularly nice to see, a man also embody that, to embody this state of presence, um, and that can happen through the balancing of these two energies, of the divine feminine and of the divine masculine. Like, say, for example, as a man, I have my core is masculine. My core I would refer to as like I derive energy from the sun. And I can be very expressive and very kind of like outward and strong and assertive and projectional, and there's a desire to spread and to share and all of that, right? um, and um, and the feminine qualities that I cultivate and that I have, keeps this in a state of balance. So when there is for example, a desire to spread, or to say, oh, I want to do this for 500 people, it is the feminine inside of me that asks me, do you really need to do it for 500 people? Or is like 50 okay? I want to build 5 houses, but do you really need to build 5 houses? Or is like maybe like one small cottage enough? um or when I feel like I really, like right now I'm in my masculine with you, right? Because you're asking me a question and I'm expressing it, and I'm sharing all of these things. um and then it's the woman, it's the feminine in me that says, Sahil, maybe this is enough. Like, now it's your turn to be a little receptive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, were you complete?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah, archetypes are containers, energetic containers that all of us have within us, and we can tap into and need to balance once in a while, to have more presence for sure. Mm, I'm. I mean, if this, there's something coming to you, uh, some examples that are coming to you, then answer this question. Um, are there like, so every archetype also has like shadow aspects, and so are there like inherited ideas of masculinity that men carry into? I mean, I'm sure there are, but what kind of inherited ideas of masculinity that men carry into these spaces that you hold? Um, and yeah, what do you think? Like, what you said something about not being enough, but what do you think? people think is to be a man, like what how do they define masculinity, and what, like, these are mostly inherited. I don't think you spoke about, when you spoke of masculinity, you spoke about uh, being outward and all of that, but there are things like this needing to protect, provide, uh, like not cry, for example, or even control the situation. These could be some things, but what have you noticed and observed that people bring?
Yep, all of this, the need to be the protector, the need to be the provider, the fixer, the
Mm,
solution giver,
mm,
the tireless and endless responsibility taker. And this, there are so many. There are um, so many aspects of this. Yeah, maybe what I'll just say about this is that, like, say for example, all of these, like the protector, the provider, the support giver, the solution giver, all of these, if embodied and if balanced, can be really beautiful qualities to have. Like, for example, I would like to be a protector. I would like to protect the ones that I love, and be there for them. Um, But a balanced and a more embodied protector would be also knowing um, that I cannot be a source of safety for someone else. That the person is also their own protector.
mm,
And so in moments where they need support, I will rush to protect them, or I will be there to stand by them and protect them. Um, but um, but my intention is not to take over this role of protection for example, in a partnership, or in a relationship. It's not to take over the role of a protector for both of us, or in a family. So I think the that's where the shadow comes in, and that's what a lot of us need to come to terms with, that we are not just these roles that we play, that there is something like beyond these roles as well. For example, I feel that most men are connected to their power when they're in service of something that is larger than
mm.
themselves. That's when a lot of men, uh, you know, uh, can be in their power. That's when I feel most in my power, when I'm in service of something that is greater than me, that is larger than me. Um, did I answer what you were? Did I answer your
Y-
question?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it was more like a conversation
Yeah.
rather. Yeah. What about being in service?
Um, just that, what I wanted to say, and what I wanted to kind of get to, is this, that um, is that if I'm not playing the role of a protector, if I'm not playing the role of a provider, if I'm not playing the fixer, then who am I?
Mm,
As a man, who am I? And to realize that my identity is not, or my sense of self-worth, um, is not dependent on these roles that I play. Sorry about that. Yeah.
yeah.
Is not dependent on these roles that I play. And so, for me to feel more empowered, um, I also have to touch upon certain aspects of my masculine, for example, being in service, which could, from which I could also derive a sense of power, or being connected to my vulnerability, allowing myself to be held, allowing myself to be supported, allowing myself to cry, to feel my emotions in the way that that I feel, can also be a source of power. Um, um, Being connected to my sexuality, being connected to my sensuality, being connected to my desirability, is also a connection to power. you know there are so many ways in which I can experience a sense of intactness, a sense of wholeness, and it is not just through these roles that I've inherited, that in fact in many ways limit me or restrict me from experiencing the expansiveness of these roles.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. In fact, I was gonna ask this there's a very popular line that misconception or like things that men are thought that real men don't cry or something like that, no? Is
Yeah,
it do you find that that's played a very big role in shaping in it does it affect how men show up in these spaces? Do they find it difficult to cry? Um, can you, yeah, just share some thoughts on that?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it was a huge challenge for me, and I had my own kind of experiences around it where when I felt like I really needed to be the person holding others' emotions and putting their emotional needs over mine. And so it always felt like another person's emotions are more important than mine. And so I never really allowed myself or gave myself permission to cry, and to really experience my grief. Um, and and I find that very common amongst a lot of men, that it's difficult to cry, it's difficult to feel our grief, um,
Mm,
and and just express it unapologetically,
mm,
without trying to
Mm.
sugarcoat it, without trying to kind of provide some meaning to it or rationalize it in some way, but just really be with what we're feeling, um, is a challenge for a lot of us, a lot of
yeah, we've talked about like a lot of different emotions, and that there was like this not enough worthy self-worth, uh, fear, anxiety came up, but this is the first grief is being mentioned, and it just makes me wonder. Um, there is grief, yes. That's also something that shows up in these spaces.
Yes, yes, most definitely. And yeah, if there's something that I kind of like try to make a part of the circles that I offer is really giving space to grief,
Mm,
and is really creating a space where we can feel our grief, because there's a softness to it, there's a tenderness to it, and your entire body, your entire being just kind of collapses,
Mm.
in this tenderness and in this softness. And I think it's so important for men to experience that. Um,
Mm.
and
Mm.
and yeah, Siddharth, can I ask you to mute yourself, brother? If that's okay with you. Yeah, thank you.
it's
That's all
okay.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So this softness and this tenderness is, I think, very important to experience, um, and it can really bring profound shifts in the way that I perceive myself, and also the way that I perceive the feminine, and be able to hold her, in her chaos.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna take like like 5 more minutes if that's all right. I think it's important to address this at this like in 2025, there are I'm wondering if there is do your spaces that you hold individually and collectively, does it include queer, trans, or even or rather gender expansive men? Have you worked with them before? Have you seen them in your spaces?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess this is always a question for me, and it's evolving. And a question that I ask myself is that, is the way in which I position myself, or the way in which I share my work, in some way exclusive, to, yeah, to, for example, um, you know, to cisgender men, or who um, who have a set notion or idea about masculinity, or about expression of their masculine. And I don't have an answer to it, and I don't know for sure if what I'm offering, or the way in which I'm offering, is inclusive, of gender expansive conversations. I've had, queer, trans, gender expansive men as a part of my circles, and there's not been a lot of participation, but there has been, and so I'm also, along with you, wondering whether the spaces that I create are truly inclusive.
Yeah. I thank you. Kalpesh dropped off. I really been missing him in the conversation. I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
some network something. But Shivendra is here,
Yeah.
who is also a co-facilitator at Biradri.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for coming on. Can you see him?
Can see a black screen at the moment.
Yeah.
Now I
Hey,
can see.
hi.
Can you see me now?
Yes, can
Yeah.
see you.
Yes.
Hi.
Hey,
I was
hey, hey.
actually, would you be open to answering this question
Yeah. Um.
um, that I just asked
hmm.
Sahil? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Sahil. Hey, Lakshmi. And Siddharth. Hey, and Mandeep. Good to have you here. Even I was wondering what happened to Kalpesh, because I was just here. I was a fly on the wall. But yeah, good to fill in the gap. Actually, I remember right from the beginning of the inception of Viradri, right from the first form that we put out, we had written that, like this goes out to everyone who identifies as a man or a trans man, and and of course, gay and bisexual, LGBTQ, all of them. And we tried to make sure that it's as open and accessible and speaks to them as well. And we did a few posts, and of course, every time we spoke about it, that was always there. But I agree with Sahil that the number of people who end up accessing such spaces from the LGBTQI community are less compared to either the straight men or the straight men who are still in the closet. I have seen some closeted. I mean, I have met and interacted with some closeted gay men, queer men, um, with whom also the journey of them becoming comfortable with their sexual orientation has also been a part of their journey with Virat, the circle, or with one-on-one coaching. Um, yeah, but I also feel that uh, it's a little difficult to find the balance between letting them know that they are also being thought of, and putting it out there completely. Like, why don't you come out and speak more, or why don't you come and access these spaces more? It's a very thin line, because and I think it comes with many years of understanding and working with the LGBTQI. like I identify myself as queer, uh, and I I am bisexual, but I've not worked in the movement and with the community a lot as compared to my. I know some people who have been social activists and who know, who have a better hold on the pulse of the situation. That to keeps changing keeps changing from city to city, from fruitier cities to metro cities to smaller towns. That keeps changing. Yeah, but yes, it has been something that we've been very vocal about in our literature, in our communication online, on Instagram or Facebook, or on even on a website. That we're very clear about us being open about our work has always wanted to include people, men from every across identities. So yeah, that's what we said. Men from across all identities. So those identities could be related to sexual orientation, where they come from, regional identities, religious identities. That's something that that's something we consciously didn't want to focus on too much, because then also what happens is when we focus only on LGBTQIA, a lot of other identities, like, get uh,
Yeah.
sidelined. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Can I ask specifically? I know both of you mentioned gay, bisexual men being a part of your groups. Can I ask if specifically there has been trans men who are AFABs um, in your part of your circles or the spaces you hold? You can just say
uh,
yes or no.
yes. On the circles, not so much, but they have reached out for one-on-one with them
Hmm.
when they got to know that. So yeah, like I have one very close trans man friend who did get to know that I was doing Viratri, and then I would have, I mean, we would meet often, just chat and converse in full space, yeah, and understand what's going on. That's something that I can talk of, and I would meet some men in the yeah we've had gay men. Yes, we've had gay men who are out and the gay men who are not out. So who don't be speak of that in the circle, not necessarily speak about their gayness, but through a sharing through that this is something that they are working towards understanding and processing themselves, or working with, um, or wanting to share it with their intimate family and friends, or something or the other related to their process of accepting that.
Okay, sure. Yeah, thank you. Sahil, you want to say yes or no for that one? Like, has there been trans men in your
Yes, yeah.
group?
We've had gay, bisexual, trans men as a part of workshops, like one-day workshops.
Mm.
Yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm. What about non-binary or like gender expansive, fluid people? Is that like, is this space also for them, or if it's also like a no? I'm just trying to understand how is this, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
yeah. I'll go ahead.
yeah. So I guess the space that um, that I am intentional about creating, or that I want to be aware about creating, is that um, mm, there is space for any evolving conversation around masculinity, around what the masculine is, and so there's not one path towards that.
Mm.
If there is, if there is, if there's any conversation that invites that, if there is any person who invites that, then I, as a circle facilitator or host, would deeply appreciate it, because it challenges. One is that it challenges my notions, it challenges my beliefs, um, and um, and and I want to be um, accepting and compassionate towards all beings. And that is who I want to be. And so any conversation mm, that initiates that, I would like to welcome it and really encourage it.
Lovely. Anything to add, Shivendra?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the space is open and always accepting and inviting for people to not just, come in as participants, but also probably inform me and the other participants of, what is the real need for, like what are they asking for? What are they, seeking in such spaces? Because that really informs our process as well. Um, I think, I mean, it has to work on both sides, like them accessing such spaces, putting themselves out in a way that speaks to everyone. I think a lot depends on the facilitators, the organizers themselves, educating themselves and reading more about, you know, um, about people of all sexual orientation. What does it mean to be gender fluid? What is gender expansive, non-binary? Watching the right kind of documentaries and reading that literature, because once we inform ourselves of that, then we also know what is something that we can appeal to, what is something that we can cater to. Because a lot of times, we have a tendency, I mean, at least I've noticed in my practice, I have a tendency to believe that I am creating a space that is open to everyone. But that is not something that ends up landing out a lot of them, because also I feel that a lot of a lot of the spaces that I inhabit, I work, and is mostly heteronormative. Even though
Hmm.
I identify as someone who is gender fluid, but I still am not someone who identifies as non-binary all the time. Yeah. So my need is, like, I think my, like they say, what is personal is universal. There is a daira, there is a uh, there is a boundary to my exploration of what is universal based on what is personal. So if I really want to make that available for everyone, it also depends on my own work on understanding what they need. So it works both ways. Yeah. I hope I was.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. We've gone well over time, but I need to ask the last question, if that's all right. It's also okay to say we have to stop.
I can answer.
Fine?
Yeah, maybe like 2, 3 more minutes would be,
Yeah.
yeah. I,
Mm, okay, so the work that you do, I want to call it a sacred versity. The introduction I was giving in the beginning about from like mainstream to many streams, and in a way you're teaching others or you are helping others learn how to connect with the sacred in at some level. So that's why I invited you both to be part of this conversation. uh, if there's someone who has a sacred offering or any offering that they want to put out in the world, be it holding listening spaces or anything else, is there like one piece of advice that you would like to give them? Like, if anyone listening here wants to like share their work with their world, what if like there's like a short one line advice that you would each give them?
Shiven, you want to go first?
No, no, go ahead, Sahil. This is quite hot seat.
Um, yeah, maybe just that that it's important to become um, the medicine or the space that we want to offer,
Mm.
and if yeah, so
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Love it.
I was,
Thank
I
you.
was thinking on similar lines. Yeah, I think to understand what sacred means to yourself, what the word sacred, what the entity, or whatever it means for yourself, and going in search of that. And if we are really ready, if to ask oneself that if I'm really ready to uh, undertake this journey of continuously being in touch with my sacred and working towards it throughout my life. Yeah. Whether or not you find co-travelers on the way, collaborators, all of that is secondary. Those are variables that will change from time to time. Even the scale at which you will work will change from time to time. But to keep asking yourself, like, if this is something really sacred, and if I've really understood that this is something that I want to work on throughout my life, am I even willing to put in the work that is needed from time to time? The scale will change, but am I willing to be consistent about it till the end? So yeah, that is something I've understood over the years. What means to get out there. Thank you.
Lovely. Lovely. Thank you. I apologize for forcefully extending the time. But yeah, thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here, sharing your thoughts. Um, yeah, let's sign off and I'll
I
see
just
you
want to
then.
also thank Siddharth and Dave and Nandini
Yeah,
for being here and for listening in. Thank you.
yeah,
And thank you, Lakshmi, for inviting us.
Yeah. Have a good night, all of you.
yeah.
Thank you,
Good
Lakshmi.
night.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.